Testing, testing.
Good evening. Welcome to the Paso Robles City Council meeting of October 17th, 2023. And Melissa, if you'll please do the noticing, please.
The city's return to hybrid public meetings pursuant to AB 361, which allows for a deviation from the teleconference rules required by the Ralph M. Brown Act. Residents now have the option to attend the meeting in person or to participate remotely. To participate remotely, residents can live stream the meeting at www.prcity.com/YouTube and call 805-865-7276 to provide public comment via phone. The phone line will open just prior to the start of the meeting and remain open throughout the meeting to ensure the opportunity to comment on each item heard by the council. Written public comments can be submitted via email to cityclerk@prcity.com prior to 12 noon on the day of the council meeting to be posted as an addendum to the agenda. If submitting written comments in advance of the meeting, please note the agenda item by number or name. City council meetings will be live streamed during the meeting and also available to play later on YouTube by accessing the following link, www.prcity.com/YouTube.
Now go ahead and bring this meeting to order. And if you'd please join us and have our new councilwoman, Sharon Roden, will lead us in that. And also, after the flag, we have an invocation from Rabbi Gordon. So if you please remain standing. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, Master of the universe, the members of this esteemed body, the Paso Robles City Council, convene here today to fulfill one of the 7 commandments which you issued to Noah and his family after the Great Flood, the commandment that all societies be governed by just laws. As stated in the book of Genesis and its sacred commentaries, you issued at the time the following 7 laws: to worship you and you alone, never to blaspheme your holy name, not to commit murder, not to commit adultery, not to steal, lie, or cheat, not to be cruel to any living creature, and that every society be governed by just laws based on the recognition and acknowledgement of you, O God, as the sovereign ruler of all humankind and all nations. Grant, Almighty God, that the members of this council constantly realize that by enacting just laws and regulations, they are doing your will. Grant, Almighty God, that the members of this council be cognizant that their gathering here today fulfills a sacred purpose. My friends, as part of this invocation, I ask you all to please join me in offering a special prayer for the horrific state of affairs that are now unfolding in the Middle East in the aftermath of the savage massacres and inhumane acts of terror perpetrated against the Jewish homeland, Israel, last weekend. Almighty God, merciful Father, please spread your blanket of comfort and consolation upon the families in the Holy Land who have lost loved ones at the hands of the foes of civilization who disgrace your name. Please dispatch your saving grace to the innocent men, women, and children who have been taken captive, enabling them to return home safely and swiftly to their loved ones. Please provide healing to those who were wounded in the cowardly attacks, and strength to the soldiers of Israel and other peace-loving countries who stand in harm's way as they fight for the cause of freedom and basic human decency. Please grant those in positions of leadership in the governments, defense departments, and military establishments of Israel and the United States the wisdom, courage, and wherewithal to see the current operations through to their swift and victorious outcomes. And let us pray in the words of King David in the book of Psalms, chapter 122, may there be peace within your walls, serenity within your mansions. Finally, I ask that you bless this city council with a peace of mind to fulfill these sacred duties. May it be your will, Almighty God, that the efforts of the council members be successful, empowering all the individuals of this great city to be decent human beings, considerate of others, reverent of you, and ready to do their bit towards the ultimate goal of a perfect world in which your presence will be manifest. Amen.
Rabbi Gordon and the community of Paso Robles, I'd like to make the following comments. We are deeply saddened and concerned about the ongoing conflict in the Gaza Strip involving Israel and Hamas. While we support Israel's right to protect themselves from attack, we acknowledge the devastating impacts of war on civilians on both sides of the border. We join in mourning the innocent victims in the conflict, and we hope that soon a peaceful resolution will quickly be found for the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Councilmember Bausch.
Present.
Councilmember Roden.
Present.
Councilmember Strong.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory,
Here.
and let the record show that Mayor Hammond is absent this evening.
And can we have staff introductions, please?
Melissa Boyer, City Clerk, joined by Shauna Howenstein, Civic Engagement Coordinator, and Karen Jackson, IT Technician.
Warren Frace, Community Development Director.
Jonathan Stornetta, Fire Chief.
David Lucaro, Public Works Operations.
Kevin Wells, Assistant Capital Projects Manager.
Angelica Fortin, Community Services Director. Frida Berman, Public Works Director. This Esperanza, Capital Projects Engineer.
Chris Hugh, Assistant City Manager. Brian Cardinal, District Services Director. Todd Ryan, Police Commander. Christopher Largo, Utility Director.
Ty Lewis, City Manager.
Elizabeth Hull, City Attorney.
So at this time, we'll start with our first presentation about State Route 46 East Project Update with Warren Frace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to introduce, I think, a little bit of everybody on this symposium kind of presentation today. We wanted to bring this before council and the community, this topic, because it's been a big focus of the city for the last 2 years, is trying to find a solution for a separated grade crossing at Highway 46 that supports not only the city's growth and circulation needs and safety needs, but also is a major driver for our economy, both in trades, goods, and tourism on Highway 46. And as part of that, Chief Stornetta was able to deliver a presentation to our SLOCOG organization last week. After seeing it and hearing his presentation, I thought the community would enjoy seeing it. But most importantly, we had some good news to announce that during our seeking to find funding for this, we were able to finally align with Caltrans a little bit better to where they are co-sponsoring funding through a TSEP application, which is Trade Quarter Enhancement Program through the state of California to fund this project. So even though we haven't been awarded any money as of yet, things are looking good. Typically when our local district or a local district of Caltrans co-sponsors and puts their weight behind a project, good things tend to happen. So it's more progress than we've made in quite some time. And I'm happy to turn it over to Chief Stornetta and then some comments by our Community Development Director, Warren Frace.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Gregory, members of the council, Jonathan Stornetta, Fire Chief. So I did have the opportunity to present the SLOCOG last week, and really the basis of the presentation was to bring to the forefront the heightened safety problems that we have on our highways throughout this county, and really get that to the people that make the decisions on where that funding comes from, of making public safety a higher priority than what it was. The goal or the focus of this presentation was on the 2.4 mile corridor on Highway 46 within the city limits. So that's from the Highway 101 underpass to Airport Road. At the intersection of Airport Road and Union Road are where a lot of our accidents occur. And if you look up here, you'll see the intersections at Union and Airport. During the weekday, all weekday, AM and PM hours, the level of service is an F. And just to make sure we're clear, F is failing in the worst grade that you can receive. On Sunday, during the peak hours, the level of service is C. Level of service is based on mobility, so that's the total capacity of traffic and the volume in all 4 lanes go in both directions. The collision data from 2019 till the end of September shows that just in that 2.4 mile corridor, and this only represents the intersections, and to clearly define the intersections, these are accidents within 250 feet of the intersections. This does not include all accidents in this corridor, but during that time period, there was 217 total collisions, 111 injuries, and 4 fatalities. And 45% of these accidents, the cause was excessive speed. It's important to note the fatality ratings in an intersection and show here how we see in the intersections That's where most fatalities occur, as well as the significant major injuries that are a result of that. As you can see from a frontal impact fatal rating, which some of us refer to as a head-on collision at 30 miles an hour, it's 3%. Side impact, which is a T-bone collision, it's 25% fatality rating. You increase that by 10 miles per hour, and you can see the difference, 85% fatality rating at 40 miles an hour in a side impact collision. And there's a couple of main reasons for this. In a head-on collision, the new vehicles, or a lot of the modern vehicles, have shock absorption systems in their front bumpers, so it absorbs some of that energy and force, as well as there's crumple zones built into these vehicles. So your frame actually starts to crumple, and your drivetrain is forced to the ground, so the force is absorbed by the ground instead of by the patient. So that allows the patient's organs to take a slow impact and also the airbag deploy, so we don't see the significant injuries. As far as the side impact, although we have airbags, there's on the side impact airbags, there's very little space there for any type of absorption of the force. So 100% of the force in a side impact is taking on the patient's body. And really what that leads to is organ tears and dissection. And that's a rapid loss of bleeding or blood, and then we usually see the fatalities happen shortly after that, or we actually see the very significant injuries as a result of these side impact collisions. If we look at the segment fatality rate map for Caltrans, you can see from the Monterey County line all the way to Atascadero, the highest segment for fatalities is actually the 2.4 mile section from the 101 underpass to Airport Road, as well as a small section going southbound 101 just before you get to 46 West. This is 2.8 to 5.5 times higher than the statewide average. And this is really what we were trying to point out to SLOCOG and the representing agencies, is to make it a priority for funding moving forward for improvements in the areas where we're seeing the highest fatality and injury rates. The state has taken considerable efforts to improve the Highway 46 corridor, making it 4-lane from Lost Hills all the way to the city limits, but it stops at the city limits. They've invested over $700 million in this project, and the most recent project we're going to see come to fruition here shortly is the Antelope Grade. Keep in mind that this corridor has an annual goods shipments of $7 billion, brings over $5 million to tourism to the Central Coast, and it's a major connector route from the Central Valley. In fact, it's the only major east to west corridor within 250 miles. If it wasn't for Highway 46, the next corridor would be in Gilroy or in Ventura. And also, as all of us that are local residents see, when I-5 closes, then all of that traffic comes directly down 46 onto the 101. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Frace to talk about the proposed project for the city of Paso Robles.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan. So the solution to this issue is a grade-separated overcrossing at Union Road. So this basically would move the traffic from the current alignment of Airport Road to what we're going to call New Airport Road, which will basically cross where Union Road is today. So that's a grade-separated interchange. That's basically a $50 to $60 million project. We're currently in the environmental review phase. As mentioned, we've been partnering with both SLOCOG, which is our regional transportation funding agency, and Caltrans on this literally for the last 10 years. We're getting very close to the wrap-up of the environmental process, they refer to as the PAED process. The next step will be developing the plans. That's the PS&E process. That is funded, so we'll move quickly into that. We're hopeful that Caltrans's co-sponsorship of our TCEP application to fund the bridge will be very successful in the next cycle, and that would then match up well with the completion of the plans, and then ideally we could go into construction quickly thereafter. So 2024 will be a very key year in terms of moving this project to the next step.
So council members, that concludes our presentation that we had, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about that. But more than anything, good things are coming to Paso Robles, and this is one of those things that would have a direct benefit not only to transportation and safety, but goods movement as well as tourism and connecting the north and south portions of our community.
So I do have a question, maybe Jonathan could answer. So the safety from the bridge eliminates the traffic from Airport Road and basically Golden Hill. So
With the bridge, it would actually, because both Union Road and Airport Road are uncontrolled intersections, it would
Okay.
alleviate both of those so they could go over the overpass. So not only does it help vehicles, it helps cyclists and pedestrian traffic as well.
Very good, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. Do I understand correctly that this does not have on-ramps and off-ramps off of 46?
So there won't be the full high-speed freeway on-ramps and off-ramps, but at Union Road, and you can see on the screen right here, kind of where this little T pork chop is, this would be an on and this would be an off. So this is basically where the current Union Road intersection is. So we would still maintain the ability to get off and get on. And then on the other side of the bridge, this is what's known as Paso Robles Boulevard. It's kind of a dead end street, but this will be connected up to the new Airport Road. So you'll have the full movements both eastbound and westbound, but it won't be a full interchange in the first phase, but it'll have the same function.
But it'll have the function to be able to get on and off of 46 as well, getting on the overpass.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Great news to be sure. Any other changes with the new application that we might be made aware of?
So we're in the process of putting together the application. So we had applied for the last round of TSEP. We weren't successful. So the next application is due in 2024. We're working with the state of California to refine our application along with Caltrans to make sure that it'll be successful this next round.
The design stays similar to what we've seen so far.
Yeah, we had an open house with Caltrans this summer where we presented the project. It's a two-phase project. What's on the screen is phase one, which is really the project we need, at least for the next 20 years or so. That has not changed. That's the final project.
Good job.
Go ahead, Fred.
And I'm pleased to say that on last week, Monday, I was able to be in San Diego with the head of the California Transportation Commission and also the assistant administrator of Caltrans. And they were both very receptive to the safety elements of this particular program. So the reception was very nice. Thank you.
So this is a pretty big item, so if there's anybody from the public that has a question, come on up and ask.
Dale Guston. I'm beating a dead horse. I always felt the intersection at Buena Vista signalized worked beautiful, and I still think that. And I campaigned for Airport Road to be the same and to cut off any other roads connecting to 46 like Union Road, and run everything through the two signals at Golden Hill now that we have a wishbone to help get that traffic going moving. But of course, I wasn't able to convince you or Caltrans of my idea. But then again, I didn't like 21st Street or 12th Street, and I didn't get my way on those either. Bye.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Okay, seeing none. At this time, we'll move into the general public comments. This is the time when the public may address the council on items within the council's purview, but not scheduled on the agenda. All persons desiring to speak on the agenda item are asked to fill out this, on any agenda item, are asked to fill out a speaker information card and give them to the city clerk prior to speaking. Each individual will be limited on their presentation to 3 minutes per item. So, Dale, welcome.
Yeah, Dale Guston, 630 13th Street. I was hoping we'd have a full council for me to address tonight, but John Hammond's on vacation. One of the reasons is originally I understood that parking was going to be on the agenda, but it was scrapped from this agenda. And so I'm going to raise it again. This city is very unhappy with the current parking situation. And I hear it from everybody, even the tourists now. They don't like it. And San Luis installed a similar one, different company, but same thing, kiosks to replace the parking meters. And now they got a backlash going on down there. So I don't know. It seems that what we think is an answer through technological means is supposed to work, but in our case, I say it's not.
Thank you. Any other general public comments?
My name is Gary Lehrer. I live at 1472 Whippoorwill Lane in Templeton. And this is important, where I live, because you had 2 or 3 people on the bridge there who were promoting white supremacy. So I went and I talked to this Board of Supervisors meeting this morning, and I pointed out, you condemned them. But when it came to condemning Hamas, and we had support for Hamas, I got a call. I'm on the board of executive board of the Republican Party, by the way, but I am speaking for myself. But I got a call from a concerned citizen in San Luis Obispo that there was pro-Hamas demonstrations or sentiment going on. And I appreciate having the rabbi here, and I appreciate Steve Gregory's words. We need to push back. This is the worst treatment I have seen of Jews in my entire life. And I'm 68. This is the worst slaughter since the Holocaust. Now, I specifically got involved in politics about a year ago because I could see this happening. And within 3 months of being involved, I spoke to a Dutch Jew who survived the Holocaust, and she said she saw the same thing happening here. Well, I don't care if this is a local, international, global issue. Every person here, from decency and justice and humanity, needs to push back against this. And I'm deeply disappointed at what happened at the Board of Supervisors this morning, but we did get at least some pushback, and they're going to make individual statements. But I would beg of you, please make a resolution supporting your citizens here in Paso Robles who have friends, relatives, or loved ones. One of my best friend's father was killed in the war, the Israeli War of Independence. I know, I studied political science and history at Cal, University of Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley, and I know, I'm a student of history, and the Jews have bent over backwards, and they proposed a two-state solution right after the War of Independence. We need to collectively fight back against the worst persecution of the Jews I have seen in my entire life, and that's specifically why I got involved in politics, and I would urge you, whatever you can would be so highly appreciated, not only by Jews here, but by Jews in the Middle East who would really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Good evening. Jeff Carr, Paso Robles. This is something I've been pursuing now, and it was just a simple request, and I think I first made it about a year ago, and I've touched base a couple times with traffic engineering on just a simple pedestrian issue, and I just here looking for a little guidance on how to push forward so I don't keep, having to keep sending the same emails over and again. This is regarding, I walk as a pedestrian almost every morning, taking the dog in the morning walk, and I walk downtown, and I have to cross Spring Street a couple of times. So if somebody's sitting on, like going down 12th Street, for instance, and they have to cross Spring Street, they'll hit the push button for the pedestrian walk, and they'll wait and they'll get it. And then they'll start crossing. But if I'm on the other side of 12th Street, walking in the same direction, trying to get across Spring Street, and I just walk up to that walk sign just before the light turns and try to push that walk button, it doesn't happen. Nothing happens. I don't get anything. So why, if the light is already showing walk on the one side of the road, why don't you just mirror it on the opposite side so I can also walk across? I see this happens a lot, and because And I see this similar confusion, and I guess because it's such a simple thing, if the wiring supports it, I don't understand why we can't put those two lights together. So if the traffic has been stopped and we got a walk to go across, enable both walk signals so both sides can go. Even if there's no one there, it doesn't matter, but still, if there's someone there that just got there, let them go. Because what happens is, if I wait and I don't take that walk, then I have to wait for turn red again, then push the walk button again. Traffic has to be stopped again, so I can walk, and it just delays traffic. So it's just such a simple thing that I've sent numerous emails about, and I kind of like to quit doing it and see something happen with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Any other comments? And I'll bring it back to staff. Oh, anybody online? Okay. So, Frida, maybe? Thank you, Frida.
In response to Mr. Carr's comments, we're aware of the issue, and James, our contractor for our traffic signals, is going to be working on 12th and 13th Street. 11th Street too? 10th through 13th. To look at the timing and how those crosswalk indicators are operating.
Very good. Thank you, Frida. Okay. Well, I think there's no other comments from the general public. So our next item, are there any agenda items to be deferred?
No, sir.
Okay. Now we have our consent calendar agenda, and are there any items that the council would like to pull or ask questions about? I actually do have one. Elizabeth, can you just tell us what item 4 means? Is that we're going to stop having that ability? Or?
Item 4 is the same resolution we've been adopting for a couple of years now to allow us to continue the hybrid meetings.
Okay.
We'll do that through the end of the year, and then AB 361 sunsets on December 31st. So we will no longer be doing hybrid meetings at that point.
At the end of after the end of the year?
After the end of the year, but for now we can keep adopting it.
All right, thank you. So seeing no questions from the council, are there anybody from the public that have questions about our consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for conversation.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir?
Yes, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. We have a first by Councilman Strong and a second by Councilman Bausch. Go ahead. Call for the question.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Roden?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. So, Ty, would you do your announcements? Thank you.
I would. So just as a recap for those listening in or online, the consent agenda consists of a first item, which is the approval of the October 3rd, 2023 City Council minutes, followed by item number 2, which is the October 11th, 2023 special City Council meeting minutes. Item number 3 is the receipt of advisory body minutes for the library board for 9/14/2023. We just discussed item number 4. Item number 5 is approval of the 2024 City Council meeting schedule. Item number 6 is receipt of a warrant register. Item number 7 is receipt of the treasurer's report for July of 2023. Item number 8 is the treasurer's report for August of 2023. Item number 9 is approval of a construction contract for East Side Slurry, say that 3 times fast, near Salida del Sol and Vista Cerro Drive in the amount of $166,000. Item number 10 is also authorizing the city manager to grant real property and establishment of the Centennial Park or Creek Conservation Easement. And item number 11 is award of a construction contract to Cal Portland Construction to repair and resurface the streets in the Rolling Hills Estates neighborhood in the amount of $949,999 with an appropriation of $360,000 for Measure E12 reserves. And that ends the consent agenda report.
Thank you, Todd. It's about time for Rolling Hills, huh? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
Just before we get too far afield from J4, are we going to have a report sometime about broadcasting these meetings?
So we don't have anything scheduled for broadcasting these meetings. We have been looking at options to improve the technology within the council chamber. Frida Berman has developed several plans regarding security, not only for City Hall, and a part of that is looking at what we can do to improve technology as well. So at some point, we'll be able to bring back those options, but at this point, we don't have anything in the near term for council decision.
Was something that I brought up before council some time ago, so hopefully before this expires, we can make that happen. Get some practice sessions in first.
You bet.
Thank you.
So now we're on to discussion items for number 1, and I believe, Elizabeth, you're going to start that off?
I will start that off. So this evening, we have item K1, a discussion item. It's a general plan amendment and rezoning initiation authorization for the Uptown Center specific plan boundary expansion, the Olive Street area rezoning. 3 members of the city council own property within 500 feet of the area that we're contemplating the expansion. That would be Councilmember Roden, Councilmember Gregory, and Councilmember Hammond. As a result of that, we only have 2 council members who are able to participate in the item. According to the Fair Political Practices Commission and the related regulations, we need to quote unquote rehabilitate one of our existing council members. And to do that, we draw a name out of a hat or draw straws by some random way to designate one of them as able to continue to participate in the item, and then the other 2 will not participate. In furtherance of that, I have placed 3 pieces of paper in my trusty little Paso 4th of July hat. Councilmember Roden, Councilmember Gregory, and Councilmember Hammond. I will.
You want me to draw it?
Absolutely not. Get your straws out of here. I'll ask the city manager to draw a name.
Well, I'm doing a comment.
I was just about to. If we draw Councilmember Hammond's name, obviously he is not with us this evening, so we will continue this item to a future date when the 3 council members who are able to participate, Bausch, Strong, and Hammond, if he is drawn, and we will not be able to proceed with the item this evening. And the lucky winner is Mr. Gregory gets to continue to play. Ms. Roden?
Wow. So let me get this straight. I get into this position for 1 week and you kick me out.
And I'm kicking you out.
Just want to be clear.
Welcome to the club.
And now we can proceed with the item. Mr. Frace, is it you?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, so this item is a discussion about whether the council wants to authorize a process to initiate a potential general plan amendment and rezone. This isn't a decision tonight about that. It's just a question about whether we should even start the process. So we are talking about what we're referring to as the Uptown Town Center specific plan boundary expansion. We're also referring to it as the Olive Street rezoning right now until we come up with a better name. So a little bit of a summary. What we're considering tonight is a recommendation from the city appointed or council appointed Housing Constraints and Opportunities Committee. Basically, the decision, as I said, is do we want to start this process to consider a future general plan amendment and rezoning that would include public participation, planning commission hearings, as well as a final city council hearing at some time in the future. We have sent out postcards to all the property owners and occupants that are within what we're referring to as the study area. So there was public notice that this was going to be on the agenda tonight. So a little bit of background on your Housing Constraints and Opportunities Committee. They were formed by the City Council in 2016. Their purpose is to reduce constraints and barriers to housing production in the city of Paso Robles. This committee has reviewed and discussed the idea of this Uptown Olive Street rezoning multiple times since their formation. Most recently, it was reviewed on their August 17th agenda. At that meeting, they voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council initiate the process. The reason for the Housing Constraint Committee recommendation was they have determined that the Uptown specific plan provides additional flexibility with design standards and dwelling types that could produce more infill housing in that area, which would be consistent with the Housing Committee's mission. So this is the area that the Housing Committee is recommending. It's kind of this light blue area. So it basically starts at First Street, continues to the north, up to 21st Street. This is Vine Street, so it's basically the alley along Vine Street. So there's Olive down the middle, and then it comes over to basically Chestnut, all the way over to Filbert Street and Locust Street as we get into 18th, 19th Street. So that's the study area that we're considering tonight. Just some statistics on the area. There's 222 parcels in that area. There's a total of 310 existing units. The majority are single-family units, so there's 180 single-family units. There's 1 ADU. There's 95 duplexes and second units. Second units were the precursor to ADUs. ADUs is more of a recent terminology that the state created. So basically they're the same thing functionally. And then there's 34 apartment units. We were also asked how many short-term rentals are in that zone. There's 40 permits, 4 are hosted home shares, 36 are non-hosted vacation homes. So basically the recommendation from the Housing Constraints Committee is that the existing R1, R2 zoning would be changed to the Uptown zone, which would be the equivalent T3 zone. This is basically a summary of the different types of land uses that are allowed in all those zones, from single family to ADUs to duplexes to quad and triplexes. All of those are allowed in all 3 zones currently. The state has changed the rules for R1 and R2 zoning over the last couple of years. So where R1 used to just be 1 single family unit on a property, now it's possible to build up to 4 units on the property, which would be very similar to what you could build in the T3 zone. So if we move ahead, we've outlined an amendment process. We do have limited staff that's available to work on this. So to move this ahead quickly, we would recommend that we solicit proposals from a consultant to assist staff in the process. That would be the first 2 steps, would be to get a contract with a consultant. We would then move into an impact and constraints analysis of the neighborhood. We expect that we probably need 2 workshops with the community as we develop the concept plans. Then we would do the environmental review, planning commission, city council, finally a second reading at city council to finalize the zone change. In terms of options, we've laid out 6 options. This is a discretionary action, so you can take no action and just leave everything as is. You could direct staff to move ahead by adopting Resolution X. That would begin the initiation process with the boundary that was currently laid out. Option 3 is the same, but with a different boundary. If the council wants to change the boundary at all, you're free to do that. If you think we need more information before making the decision, you can refer it back to either staff, the Housing Constraints Committee, or even the Planning Commission for additional review if that is something you need. Or you could formally take action not to move it ahead. And finally, you can tell us to do something different. So the Housing Committee is recommending option 2. So the Resolution X, if you adopt that, would initiate the process, and we would start the review of the area shown in green on the screen. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. So Fred, questions?
Yes, as I understand it, reading the staff report, and I'm asking you to correct or verify, the reason we're doing this, actually the state is now providing very similar availability. But if we do it under our system, by making this amendment, we will retain a little more control and actually give the builder more flexibility. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that would be true under the Uptown plan. There is more flexibility in the form-based code than there is just under the state mandates for ADUs. It's probably a similar number of units, but I think you have a little bit more flexibility on how you'd build them.
Thank you.
Chris?
So a couple of questions, Warren. The R1, the yellow here on the map, is there any reason to expand the current proposed boundaries since SB 9 already seems to take that under its wing and provide similar? Are we going to come back in the future and be asked to approve the amendment?
Yeah, so the Uptown plan is mainly the historic grid. So the
Right.
design guidelines are based on developing on a grid where you have alleys and you can infill. So the Uptown plan was specifically fine-tuned for the grid. The grid kind of ends there. The reason the grid ends there is the topography changes drastically. So it basically goes from flat to very steep. So most of that yellow area, and you'll see it based on some of these kind of larger lots and whatnot, is that it gets steeper and large lot and very rural residential very quickly, which isn't what the Uptown plan is intended to regulate, that kind of. So I would not think that we would expand the Uptown into the hillsides in the future.
Will the hillside be come back? Will the needs of to build additional units, will that question come back to us at some point in the future?
Based on the available land throughout the community, that would probably be the least likely area that we would look to increase density. There's many areas throughout the town that are well suited for increased density. That would probably be one of the last areas we would look.
Okay, thanks. And then let's shift gears, talk about the consultant. I understand, we want to make best use of our staff's time, but help me understand why hiring a consultant is the best use of funding. And do we have an estimate of what that consultant would cost? And do we have an idea of where that funding is going to be sourced from?
So the reason for the recommendation is most of our senior planning staff is conflicted out because they own property in this zone. Okay. So we only have one senior staff member that can work on this. So I think it's really about being able to move this ahead efficiently. We can definitely do it with existing staff. It will take much longer because there's only one person that really can work on it. But it's an option. So we can do it at staff level. It'll take longer. If we hire a consultant, it'll move faster. I would think you're probably looking at around $50,000 for a consultant. That also include your CEQA review process.
And where does that money come from? General fund or planning? Where does that budgeted?
Yeah, as we bring that back, the council would have to allocate it from a certain account. So we would look at different options for funding. So I believe it's basically going to come out of the general fund one way or the other.
Okay, thank you.
So Warren, I just have a historical question for you. So when we were doing the Uptown Downtown plan, we didn't quite get to this portion of the zoning, and the intent originally was to come back and do it someday. And is that correct?
That's my understanding. That in 2011, that there was discussion about including all of the grid.
Okay. And then another question I have, I've talked to a few people walking on the street. They're a little concerned about the change in zoning. But the way you explained it is that the state allows a lot of the changes already. But the specific difference, and I don't know if you could repeat what the specific difference between the state zoning and what this would allow.
Yeah, so the uses stay the same, that it's all residential. Basically, what we call the units kind of would be different. So there'd be accessory dwelling units if it remains R1. If we're in the Uptown zone, we have more flexibility with duplexes, carriage houses, that sort of thing, which have more flexibility, I think, in terms of design and appearance than kind of the state mandated ADUs have.
Right. And I believe the intent or the mission of the Uptown Downtown plan has mostly been design orientation and layout, correct?
Yeah, it has a very strong focus on design. It's what's called a form-based code with design guidelines. So it is well suited for kind of a historic district. There's a lot of historic bungalows and houses within that zone, and the uptown plan is fine-tuned to deal with that kind of a neighborhood.
Very good. Any other questions from the council? Okay, go ahead. No, okay. So this time we'll open it up to the public. If you have a question, and please come on up.
Dale Guston again. I had a question. I don't understand the overlay on this rezoning and the zoning for vacation rentals, which was established.
Okay. So, any other questions? Oh, that's okay. We'll answer that question in a bit, Dale.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm glad that you're all listening or hearing this item tonight. Mr. Frace, I meant to give these to the councilman earlier. I don't know if you could still pass that. I don't think there's a capability of it overhead. Is that correct? Okay, that's all fine. That's all good. Vince Vanderlip, Mr. Guston, thank you for the reminder. Good evening again. So just as a review and just as a heads up to you, I do sit on the HCOC, and I actually sat on the Planning Commission when this plan with this specific plan was adopted in 2011. And the plan, as Councilman Gregory had said, was to revisit every 3 to 5 years, because it was really that form-based code zoning was really experimental at the time. So I think the commission at that time didn't want to get too generous with that zoning until we knew exactly how things were going to work out. And the plan was to come back in about 3 to 5 years and redo that. And I think that you can't really see it on this map here, but it might be good to know that the boundary currently for the Uptown specific plan stops in the alley between Vine and Olive, which was a bit of an odd boundary at that time. But I think, quite frankly, in recollection, I don't think that the commission, we had pretty much the rest of it to the east, north, and south pretty well understood, but I don't think there was a really good understanding about where that boundary, it seemed a bit arbitrary at the time, that running down an alley with a zoning boundary seemed a little bit strange. And I think the first step at the end of our meetings, when, like I said, was to actually come back and revisit that and make adjustments as necessary. So when this was also, when the HCOC was, first historically, as the HCOC was formed, this was actually one of the very first options that was zeroed in on to provide more housing on the west side. It just seemed like a natural thing to go ahead and expand that to the flat areas. Basically what Mr. Frace had mentioned, that was basically the flat areas of the west side, to stay out of the hillside areas, because that didn't seem very conducive to the T3N zone, whereas those flat areas are actually way more conducive to that. So just to run through these, I think the main thing, and really one of the reasons I think that it received a unanimous vote, is in lieu of this, well, let's backtrack. The ADUs actually do work to provide more units. The disadvantage to them is if you, in lieu of this rezoning here, you end up with ADU development driving what's left of the R1 zone on the west side, in addition to some of the R2 zoning on the west side. So that, given that ADU development and capability is never going to go away, but what this does is it gives people more choices. And I think that's, could I request a little more time this evening?
Is the council okay with that? Go ahead.
I'll step away and reintroduce
You got it. Good idea.
Thank you. So what it does is it allows builders, property owners, and everyone a little more flexibility over there to provide products that are under the T3N zone, or the form-based code that comes along with the Uptown specific plan. That's a much better zoning code and a much better use of zoning conditions than ADU development. I think ADU development has its place. However, it doesn't result in the best of products. And the reason is it comes without too many standards. And I can go through these really, really quickly just so everyone knows. But the first one, it's not counted as density units. So that's something we could clear up. I'm not quite sure if that affects the total build-out horizon or not. However, there's no minimum lot size and lot coverage. There's the parking standard. It does have a parking standard that's 1 space per bedroom up to 2. However, that goes away if the if the unit's within 1/2 mile of a public transit, not the station, but at public transit in general. If it's located within a historical district, and if you remove existing parking structures like garages or covered parking, ADUs don't require the replacement of that parking. So most of the areas on the west side are in fact outside of or within a 1/2 mile of the transit. So they would, essentially the parking requirement disappears with ADU development. The setbacks only require 4 feet on all 4 sides. No curb, gutter, sidewalk, or alley improvements, no open space requirements, no landscape. Whereas the T3N comes along with being subjected to the form-based code, which as we all know is a much better situation as far as development is concerned. It provides for frontage requirements, entry and articulation, and a matching design recommendations for the west side. The setbacks, front 15 feet, sides 5 feet, second stories, again, articulation going to 8 feet. Parking is required, 1 space per bedroom up to 2. There's no in lieu for that. You have to provide parking. The open space requirement is 40 square feet per unit up to, depending on the building type, up to 300 square feet. And landscaping is required of front yards and backyard trees as well. So at the end of the day, again, I don't think it's really a battle between ADU development, trying to limit that or have it go away. The option is to provide people, I think there are people that would really select the T3N zone because it's worked quite well on the west side to preserve that character and go along with the historical district over there. So that's just a summary there, and I'll leave it up to council to make that decision, but thank you for your time. And I'm here if you have any questions of HCOC or anything like that, just feel free to let me know.
Thank you, Vince. We appreciate having a historian here. So. Any other public comments on this item?
Yeah, hi, Jeff Carr, Paso Robles. Yeah, this has been a little confusing to me, and I appreciate the last speaker because he cleared up a lot of questions I had that I wish would have been in the staff report. Because, I mean, I remember I was at the HCOC meeting remotely and listening to this, and it started out was like, well, the state put all these requirements on it, so we don't need to do anything here anymore because the densities, we can't improve the density. But then suddenly, well, then I'm hearing that we can, and now it's not that we can, but it's flexibility. So, and then he cleared it up even a little better. But it's still concerning, and I wish we get a better handle on the real benefits of what we're doing here, considering we're talking about a 12, 13-month project. We're saying more than 50,000. That's not the greatest kind of way I like to hear fiscal impact reported. I'd rather have a not to exceed rather than say, well, it's going to be over 50,000. I mean, that could be much more. So I hope that improves. Because, yeah, it just seems... At the end of the HCOC meeting, I didn't understand why they approved it because it just seemed like a make-work project because I didn't see any benefit out of it. So I hope it clears up a little better as we go forward. Again, I appreciate the last speaker. He helped clear up some of it. And I hope, we get a much better understanding of the money involved as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Anybody else like to speak this time? We'll bring it back to the council. And I don't know if there's any questions. I have a couple myself, but I'll go ahead and start.
Is it questions or comments? No.
Both. We can do both. So I just have a quick question. No?
Sure.
So this is a technical question, and so Warren, if the zoning were to change to T3N and be consistent with the neighbors, they could still put an ADU in if they wanted to, correct?
Say that again?
They could still put an ADU in the T3N zoning?
Yeah, ADUs are allowed in any zone.
Okay. And I think to help Mr. Carr's question is the biggest benefit that I've seen over the years, I sat on the planning commission with Mr. Vince over there, and it's the benefit of keeping your neighborhood the way it should be looking. So it's a design criteria. And over the last 10 or 12 or 14 years, there's been an amazing number of projects in this zone for uptown, downtown plan. And it's worked really well. And what happened in my opinion, and I'm along with Vince saying, the state code is very generalized where this is specific to our community. And we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours looking at design criteria and things in the community that would work on this plan. So it's got more of a Paso Robles, you do it kind of a feel to it. So I just want to make that comment. And Fred, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. And I want to clarify one thing. For the immediate moment, the parking thing about the transit is not really a big concern, because the way that state law is written, you have to have a frequency on that public transit that is far greater than what we have. So we don't qualify as yet, and probably won't for a number of years. However, the other thing is that in my work with the League of Cities, we worked on some of these pieces of legislation that all of this is concerning. And local control is always our number one priority. So we want to maintain that local control. And this will do so, more so than having the state just continue to tell us how to do everything. We know our local situation much better than they do up in Sacramento. The other aspect of this is that we really have to meet certain types of state laws, and this does that, because we have our requirements on how many houses we're supposed to build, or at least propose and have available for building, and that's zoning. If we have the zoning, it doesn't mean they have to be built, but they have to at least have the zoning so that it's capable for the private sector to come in and provide the housing. And when we talk about the 50,000 or 70,000 or whatever it's going to be, water is not the issue, but whether it's the state mandating too much for us, or if it will fit our environment and the type of community we want, that's something else, and this helps us control that a little bit better. And that's one of the reasons I'm in favor of this particular approach.
Thank you, Mr. Strong. Chris.
Thank you. So Mr. Carr raises a good point. So does Mr. Vanderlip. Thank you for both presentations. Cost. The 50,000 to 100,000, what would you be willing to accept and not to exceed? It seems like kind of going into this not being really sure of what that's going to be yet.
Yeah, staff basically just was kind of giving you a ballpark assumption. You can put any parameters on that as you see fit. So if you want to, put a not to exceed, and we're going to bring the contract back. So, regardless of even what you say tonight, you're still going to have the final say on exactly what it is. So the council's going to authorize it.
Okay.
We will be issuing an RFP, so it's a competitive bidding process. So we will at least have that.
Right. We're getting a bad rap for overuse of consultants. I understand why we use consultants. And there are times when it's absolutely makes a lot of sense. And there are other times when maybe not. I don't know in this case, but I would feel more comfortable than not to exceed, or at least come back to council and say, okay, we've exceeded that. We need more money. But going into that just so that there is some kind of one. Yeah, whoever makes the motion, if we can put that in there, I'd appreciate it.
Why don't you draft the motion?
Well, I would approve Resolution X, directing staff to initiate a general plan amendment and rezoning of the Uptown Town Center specific plan boundary expansions as shown in attachment 1 with the use of consultants with a cost not to exceed $100,000.
I'll second that.
So first by Councilman Bausch, second by Councilman Strong. Any other questions or discussion? So Melissa, can you call for the question, please?
Could you clarify the not to exceed amount? I didn't hear it.
$100,000.
Thank you. Councilmember Bausch?
Aye.
Councilmember Strong?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. And at this time, we'll need to find our lost council person. Is there any further discussion, Elizabeth?
We can go look for her, but I believe she may have called it an evening, seeing as there were no other discussion items on the agenda for tonight.
All right. Do we need to confirm that, or?
She has to tell us about all the meetings she's gone to. That might take a while.
I think you can proceed.
Continue? Okay. All right. Ty, you have the city manager's report for us?
I do. Thank you very much. I think the first thing I want to lead with is after our last council meeting, at our last council meeting, we revealed our video that the city produced regarding our roads and on the phone. Regarding our roads and investments to date and where we're going. We're holding what we're dubbing Coffee with the CMO this Friday at the Cal Coast Brewery. They have the Patina Room, which is a conference room there, 7:30 a.m. Will be Frida Berman, our Public Works Director, as well as myself, will be there to discuss roads and what's been done, show the video to the community, and just kind of an informal session to be able to talk and answer questions that might be on the community's mind. We're doing another session similar to that. Mr. Hewitt will lead this one along with Frida at our Rotary meeting coming up towards the end of the month as well. So we're really trying to get the information out there. This will be a continuing series where we're not just talking about roads, but we'll be bringing different department heads at different scheduled events so the community can get to know their city leadership and what projects are going on, and hopefully be a little more amiable to dialogue and interaction with their government. So that's one of the main things that we'll be looking for in the next several months, beginning this Friday at 7:30 a.m. With that, I think public's well aware, as well as the council. Saw many of you out there at our 93rd Annual Pioneer Day Parade. What a great event that was. Members of the community came out in droves. I saw people setting up the day before to get the primetime seats and see all of the various floats and displays and tractors and enjoy the city park as it was intended. So that was a great event as well. City consultants recently provided a presentation to city staff regarding our property values in the community, which is great. It coincided with an assessor's report of what's going on with property values. I can tell you that property values overall within the city rose the most out of any municipality within the county at almost 7.5%. That's due to turnover primarily. When one property sells, it sells for more, which brings our median housing prices in the city, within the city limits, to about $677,000 for single family residence now. So that's at an all-time high over historical records as well. So we'll keep council appraised as we develop more information on the impacts. It's great to hear council is making affirmative actions to be able to increase housing density and supply within the city. So that coincides very well with that news as well. And I think that's enough for this report. So I want to thank the council again for indulging me with the good news. We're hopeful, last but not least, before it slips my mind, that our new fire station will be occupied hopefully by the end of the month. I believe that we're getting close with our power supply issues, but if all goes well, keeping our fingers crossed that we might be there. Frida's giving me a look like it may not happen, but I'm a believer. I want to believe it's going to happen. So thank you, council.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our council business and committee reports, and I think we should start with Mr. Strong since he's so full of good news here.
And I reported a part of it already when I made my comment earlier about the meeting down in San Diego. That meeting, by the way, was a special conference put on by the Pacific Surfliner Board of Directors and that agency, in conjunction with Sandag down in the San Diego area. And it regarded primarily rail. But along that line with rail, part of what came up was the need to extend the rail along the coast all the way to the Bay Area, so that hopefully we can have one single train that goes all the way San Diego to
San Jose at least. And for that reason, we have a couple of senators from down there that are going to be working on that. And they're going to try to work with our senator and also the one from Santa Barbara. And that would be Limon, of course, and ours. And see if we can't all work together on that and then join with the Capital Corridor out of Sacramento, which may be joining and bringing the train all the way through. And we have a special committee that's going to deal with that. So that's how we're dealing with that part. As far as our highways and other things like that, I will be going to Boise, Idaho, at the end of this month for a national meeting where we will be discussing, and that meeting is a board of directors meeting, but it is also the organization where I'm the transportation policy chair nationally. And highways is, of course, a great concern, and safety is one of our #1 concerns. Almost every one of our agencies now, from federal through the state, through the regions, down to our local, are all subscribing to 0 deaths on the highways by 2050. And we're working very diligently to try to make safety a #1 priority. We'll be proceeding with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Chris, how are you doing?
Thank you. October 4th, attended Paso Robles Night Out. Thank you very much to all safety personnel and staff who put that on. It was really a good turnout. It was good to see everybody, so thanks very much. Also attended Youth Commission meeting that evening. The Teen Center continues to be a very robust draw, so just thanks to everybody who has a hand in making that come together and stay together. Very active, good resource for our teens. Thanks to everybody who applied to become an airport commissioner. We had a great turnout. In the end, congratulations go to Bill and Phoebe, our incumbent commissioners. I think they'll continue to do a good job. Attended the Ciabatta Paso Robles Unity and Prayer Rally that Rabbi Gordon, who was here earlier this evening, put on. We'll come back to requesting a resolution here in just a moment. Met with Christopher, Nick, and David to discuss our city water resources. As city manager mentioned, Pioneer Day. I've been here since 1987, and I think Pioneer Day gets better and better and better. Great people, just great camaraderie, great spirit de corps for all of Paso Robles. So thanks to everybody for making that happen. One sidebar on Pioneer Day, the back of a police car is a lot more comfortable than I had expected. Thank you. Don't want to repeat that till next year, though. But you do get locked in back there. Did not realize that. Yesterday at Parks and Rec, we had great meeting there. Great things happening. Downtown Paso Robles Main Street. Couple of upcoming items that they asked me to pass along. This Saturday, we have the Golden Oak Honey and Pumpkin Festival from 10 to 5 in the downtown park. Lots of things going on there. On Halloween, don't forget to trick or treat downtown from 3 to 6. They're still looking for barricade volunteers. If you've ever volunteered for a barricade duty, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it's a lot of fun. You get to see a lot of kids, a lot of parents, a lot of people. So it's a good event. So contact Main Street if you can help. And then Elegant Evening is fast approaching on November 11th. Watch for tickets to go on sale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. So our mayor is out of town, and I hope he stays safe in his travels. He's actually was heading to Israel, but he has gone off course a little bit, but hope to see him back soon. For my activities, Paso Night Out, I was there, and it was nice to see the police department, fire departments, and all of our people that keep us safe out there. And watching the children enjoy it so much was very nice. I attended the ECHO MOU meeting that we have, and I think we've come to a conclusion in that. We also had the homeless strategy update for the ad hoc, and we had that yesterday, and that's moving around really nicely. It's really important to have a strategy in place for receiving funding, and I think that Paso Robles is the number 2 city in the county next to San Luis Obispo for being prepared for homelessness, so it's doing good. Had a breakfast with Mr. Pichon and reviewed several items between the county and the city and continue to work together. It was a very nice interview with all the airport commissioners, and Bill and Phoebe were renominated. And that airport commission is becoming an exciting place, obviously because of Mr. Martin's effort of getting Spaceport here. And later in the week, I'm going to be attending LAFCO, and then also the county mayor's lunch covering for Mr. Hammond. And there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about, and this is going to throw people for a little loop, but I'm going to mention it. There's a backup. Well, before I go there, I want to thank the community and the staff for the work on that item that we did tonight. It's very thorough and very complete. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Vanderbilt. So there's a backup of about 40 vacation rentals on the west side. Just recommending a discussion, which I will not be participating with, maybe, about trying to relieve that by a couple different ways. One, we could have the people that have permits and they're not using them, give them up, because they're basically standing in line and taking something from people that could actually generate business from it. The other is to further reduce the number of R1 units that allow vacation rentals, like going from 75 down to 50, and then replacing those in the downtown corridor for vacation rentals. That's probably I won't suggest which way, but you guys do what you want. But I think it bears conversation to relieve that. So
I would agree with you.
Okay. So would you be okay bringing that back for discussion?
As a staff presentation? Yeah, as a discussion, sure.
Yeah, so the idea is not to increase the number of vacation rentals, but to supplant them. So. And with that, I'll go over all the things that are coming at us right here. So
can I make one more request before you go? I wanted to, Mr. Hammond, or excuse me, Mayor Hammond had sent a very nice letter during the prayer rally for Ciabatta Paso Robles. I'd like to see if we can't develop that into a more formal resolution of support and bring that back at the next meeting.
I'd be good for that.
Are you referring to his email that he referenced regarding Israel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Coming up, we have the Paso Robles Development Review Committee, October 23rd, 3:30 p.m. The Paso Robles Airport Commission meeting, October 26th, 6:30 p.m. out at the airport. The Paso Robles Development Review Committee, October 30th. Do they have to wear costumes for that one? Okay. And Safe and Fun Halloween downtown. Watch where you walk and don't take anybody's candy. It's good. So, and then the Paso Robles Youth Commission Advisory Committee on November 1st at 5 to 6 p.m. The Paso Robles Development Review Committee, November 6th. And the Paso Robles City Council meeting on November 7th. And if there's no other further business,
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
First by Strong, second by Bosch. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Some kind of record, Mr. Gregory. Impressive. Good job.
Yeah. It's easy. It's easy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I don't mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's for for helping me.
I don't know why I didn't update. That was weird. I should auto-connect.
IT, fix it.
I will share this with you more.